I've never been the kind of guy who's great at planning ahead. My ex would probably tell you I live life in a permanent state of good enough. I'm a single dad now. My daughter Mia is 8, and when she's with me, I try to keep things as stable and normal as I can. But when she's not, I'll admit my apartment looks like it was decorated by a guy who thinks folding chairs count as living room furniture. Back in February of 2021, I had just moved into a new apartment in Spokane. 2 bedrooms, linoleum kitchen floor, and a view of the parking lot that I kept pretending was urban rustic. My budget wasn't stretching very far, so I did what I always do when I need something but don't want to pay full price. I hit Craigslist. Craigslist is basically the single dad's IKEA. You don't go there for beauty or design. You go there because someone's unloading a dresser for $50, and if you squint hard enough, you can pretend it's vintage. What I really needed was a couch. My old one had given up the ghost months earlier. Springs poking through the cushions, duct tape holding one armrest together. Mia used to bounce on it like a trampoline until I had visions of her disappearing inside it like a sinkhole. I'd tossed it during the move and told myself, first paycheck in the new place, I'll get something halfway decent. Scrolling Craigslist, I found one that looked okay. Brown microfiber, a little lumpy, but the pictures showed it in decent shape. The ad said $80, must pick up, non-smoker household. $80 was right in my sweet spot, cheap enough to ignore the little voice in my head whispering, this might smell like someone's wet dog. I borrowed my buddy's pickup, loaded it up, and dragged it into my apartment with the kind of sweaty pride only a divorced guy with 0 upper body strength can understand. I set it in place, stepped back, and thought, yeah, looks like a couch. Mission accomplished. That first night, I stretched out on it with a frozen pizza and Netflix. The thing wasn't exactly comfortable. Cushions sagged in weird spots, like maybe the last owner had a favorite nap position they refused to change for 10 years. Still, it beat sitting on the floor. It took a couple of days before I realized something was off. The smell. Not overpowering, not like cat pee or anything, but faint, stale, like old sweat mixed with something musty. I figured maybe it had been in a basement. I sprayed Febreze until the air practically shimmered and moved on. Then little things started showing up. One night, I shifted in my seat and heard a metallic clink. Reaching between the cushions, I fished out a quarter. No big deal. Couches eat coins. The next day, while vacuuming, I saw a hair tie tumble out from under the seat. Pink, stretched out, with a single strand of dark hair still knotted into it. I don't keep hair ties, and Mia's are all rainbow-colored ones from Target. I told myself it was normal. People lose stuff in couches. That's practically what they're for. But as the days went on, it became more. A grocery receipt crumpled into a tight ball, dated from almost a year earlier. A movie ticket stub so faded I could barely make out the title. A bobby pin. A nail file. It was like the couch was coughing up someone else's life in fragments. By then, curiosity had gotten under my skin. One Saturday, when Mia was at her mom's, I decided to go full excavation mode. I pulled out the cushions, stuck my arm in as far as it would go, and swept my hand back and forth. My fingers brushed something flat and papery. I pinched it and pulled. It was a notebook. A small black leather-bound journal, elastic strap hanging loose. I sat there on the floor staring at it, heart thumping harder than I wanted to admit. For a second, I thought, cool, maybe it's full of sketches or a diary, something artsy. But even then, part of me knew it wasn't going to be anything simple. I opened it. Even before reading it, the handwriting made me uneasy, tight, cramped, almost angry. Words jammed together like the writer couldn't slow down. On the surface, it was harmless. Dates, a description of someone named L. Apparently, Elle was beautiful. Perfect, always wearing blue sneakers. I flipped forward. The entries spiraled quickly. The writer described watching Elle at coffee shops, following her car, writing down what she ate, who she spoke to. She didn't notice me today, but she will. My stomach flipped hard. The deeper I read, the worse it got. Pages of rambling fixations, her smile, her hair, the way she never locked her back gate. The handwriting slanted harder, black ink digging deep into the page. If she won't talk to me, I'll make her. And then, one entry that stopped me cold. No one's seen her since Tuesday. They're putting up posters. But I know where she is. I shut the journal like it burned me. I sat there on the floor of my apartment, journal in my lap, realizing I was holding something that might have belonged to what? A stalker. Worse. My mouth was dry. I felt stupid for even touching it without gloves. For a while, I just stared at the couch. That stupid $80 couch. Had someone hidden it in there, forgotten it, or left it there on purpose? The next morning, I took the journal to the police station. The officer at the desk flipped through it. He asked me how I got it. I told him, Craigslist couch, found it stuffed inside. He jotted something down and told me they'd take a look. That was it. No explanations, no reassurance, just we'll take it from here. I left feeling like I'd handed over a piece of poison and had no idea where it had leaked from. Weeks passed. The police never called me back. I thought about following up, but honestly, part of me didn't want to know. I didn't want confirmation that what I'd read was connected to some real missing person. Some family out there putting up posters while the writer of that journal sat in their living room scribbling fantasies. The couch stayed in my apartment. I couldn't afford another one, not right away. But I hated it. Every time I sat down, I wondered who else had sat there before me. What they'd been thinking, what they'd written. When Mia visited, she'd sprawl out with her tablet, legs dangling over the armrest, and I'd force a smile while my skin crawled. I never told her about the journal. Some things kids don't need to carry. A few months later, I finally saved enough to buy a new couch from a discount furniture store. The old one, I didn't even try to sell it. I dragged it out back, shoved it next to the dumpsters, and left it there in the rain. Still, I couldn't let it go. Every thrift shop find, every piece of furniture I brought home after that, I checked it. Pulled out drawers, flipped cushions, ran my hands along seams like a lunatic. Most of the time, I found nothing but dust. But every time, I thought about that journal, the way the ink dug into the paper. The sentence, I know where she is. I'll never know if it was real or just the ramblings of someone unstable. But the not knowing, that's what sticks with me. Now, whenever I sit on a couch, mine, a friend's, even at a doctor's office, I wonder what might be stuffed inside. What secrets people leave behind waiting for someone else to find. I learned the hard way. Sometimes the ugliest part of an object isn't what you see. It's what someone left behind inside it. Des Moines in December is so quiet, you can hear the house complain to itself. The furnace shutting off, the house creaking as it cools. I'm 31, a freelance editor for YouTube channels, and most nights I worked late at the dining table while my husband Matthew slept down the hall. The baby monitor was always at my elbow, screen showing my 5-month-old son Theo asleep in his crib. It was our routine: bath, bottle, a silly whale projector that tossed fake stars on the ceiling, then sound machine set to rain. Nothing fancy, but it worked. The monitor gave me peace of mind, and I relied on it more than I cared to admit. The first whisper came so faint I thought I'd imagined it. It's okay. I looked at the screen. Theo was curled up, sound asleep. The green audio bar on the monitor flickered normally. Static, hiss, the soft patter of rain sounds. I convinced myself it was interference. Baby monitors pick up weird things. Radios, phones, even neighbors' devices. But a few nights later, close to 2 a.m, I heard it again, clearer this time. Go back to sleep. That one made me stop what I was doing. The voice wasn't mine. It wasn't Matthew's. It was calm, the exact tone I used at Theo's crib. When I walked down the hall and peeked into the nursery, it was silent except for the sound machine. Matthew shrugged it off. Probably radio interference, he said. I tried to believe him, but I started keeping notes. December 12th, 2:18 a.m., it's okay. December 14th, 3:01 a.m., go back to sleep. December 18th, 1:56 a.m., good baby. Always the same soothing words. We tried everything, resetting the monitor, changing frequencies, moving it away from the router, even replacing it. But no matter what we did, the whispers kept slipping through. The night that broke me was December 21. Theo stirred in his crib. On the monitor, I heard, good baby, go back to sleep. The words were so close. I carried the receiver down the hall. When I opened the nursery door, the whisper didn't cut out. It was still there, not through the handheld, but in the room itself, coming from the monitor camera's tiny speaker. I yanked the plug. The voice stopped mid-syllable. Just like that. We returned that monitor the next morning and bought a new brand, one with encryption and all the right promises. For 2 nights, nothing happened. Then, on the 3rd night, it's okay. That's when I called the manufacturer, then the internet company, then eventually the police. Everyone gave the same answers: interference, cross-signal, harmless tech glitches. But none of those explanations matched the timing, the way the words always landed right after Theo stirred, like whoever it was could see him. I tried recording it on my phone, but the voice never came when I was prepared. It seemed to know. The scariest part wasn't the words themselves, it was how ordinary they sounded. Kind, gentle. The same phrases I used every night. Hearing them from someone or something else made the nursery feel like it didn't belong to us anymore. We locked down every setting, even pulled an old analog audio monitor out of storage. That one hissed and popped like a campfire, but it was honest noise. The sleek new one still whispered. Eventually, the frequency of it slowed, but it never stopped completely. Some nights I'd wake up for no reason, heart pounding, and wait, listening for that familiar voice. Other nights it would slip in casually. Shh. Just one word, enough to wreck the rest of my night. I still don't know what it was. Rationally, I can tell you about interference, stray signals, maybe even someone hacking into baby monitors. But deep down, I can't shake the memory of standing in the nursery that night, holding my son, while a voice that wasn't mine whispered comfort into his room. Now, even with Theo older, I still keep the monitor volume low. I still tape over LEDs. And every so often, in the middle of the night, I'll lie awake, listening for a voice that doesn't belong to us. I live in Denver and do a little photography work. Senior portraits, small business products, but mostly I just love taking pictures. Back in April 2021, a group of friends and I went on a weekend trip. City wandering, mountain overlooks, and too much diner food. When we got home, I sat down at my desk to do what I love most: sort, edit, and relive the trip frame by frame. I started scrolling through the pictures like always: composition, light, balance. Then one detail snagged me. A man, just barely in frame, left side, like a mistake. Baseball cap, dark windbreaker, hands in his pockets. At first look, nothing special, just another background stranger. But the way his chin lifted made it seem like he knew I was there. I moved on. In city photos, there are always people in the background. But later, while editing shots from the overlook in the mountains, I spotted him again. This time farther away, standing on the next ridge over. Same cap, same jacket, same squared-off posture. I felt that clench in my core. I wanted to believe it was just a coincidence. Lots of people wear dark jackets and caps. But as I kept going through the weekend folder, I saw him again, reflected in a bakery window, blurred but there. And again in a street photo where he was the only one facing the camera while everyone else looked elsewhere. In a group diner shot, he appeared through the window across the street, chin lifted the same way as before. What unsettled me wasn't just that he showed up in multiple photos, it was the way he always faced me. I tested myself, zooming in, trying to disprove it. Maybe I was imagining similarities, but even Lightroom's face recognition tagged him across different photos. 4 locations, 2 days, always aligned with my lens. I showed a couple of friends. They laughed it off. "You've got a fan," one said. Another shrugged, "Coincidence." I tried to laugh along, but that guy's body language was messing with my head. He wasn't just in the photos, he was aware of them. I printed a contact sheet of the shots where he appeared. On paper, the pattern was worse. In every photo, his stance was the same. Shoulders squared, chin raised a fraction, not looking at the view or the crowd, looking at me. What gnawed at me was the crosswalk photo. I'd taken it through the car windshield, a blurry nothing shot. But there he was again, stepping off the curb, lined up perfectly with the camera. Out of all the frames that weekend, that one convinced me the most. He hadn't just wandered into the background. He'd been following us. Nothing happened on the trip itself. No one approached us. No weird encounters. If you'd asked me right after, I would have said it was a great weekend. But the photos told another story. Someone had been watching, and not just watching, but making sure I saw him later. Who do you call for something like that? I mean, what could I even say? It sounded ridiculous, even in my head. "Excuse me, officer, I think someone's stalking me through pictures." Instead, I adjusted my habits. I stopped geotagging photos online, and I delayed posting until after I'd left a place. The others forgot about it. They teased me a little, but to them, it was just background noise. For me, it stuck. Photography used to mean freezing good moments. Now I zoom into every corner of every shot, afraid of what I'll find staring back. The truth is, I'll never know who he was. Maybe a traveler with the same itinerary. Maybe someone who noticed the camera and wanted to play with it. Or maybe someone who wanted me to notice him and no one else. I still shoot, still love it. But I can't look at a set of photos without scanning the background now, waiting to see if he's there again. Cap, jacket, chin lifted, facing straight toward me. Because a photo always says, "I was here." And those frames whisper back, "So was I." I've been a paramedic long enough to know nights in Albuquerque don't usually leave room for imagination. When you're on shift, you're running on vitals, addresses, and timestamps. The rest is just noise. But some calls don't fade when the night ends. They cling to you. This was February 2020, late shift. Rivas and I were staged near Coors, parked in a half-empty lot. He scrolled through scores on his phone while I flicked a glove like a rubber band. The usual calm before dispatch cracked the air. Medic 8, respond code 2, difficulty breathing, adult male, family on scene, Albuquerque fire en route. We pulled out. The farther south we drove, the thinner the city lights got. When we hit the address, the headlights swept across a small house tucked off the road, brush creeping in on both sides. And in front of it, motionless, was a girl. 15, maybe 20 yards past the fence line. A girl in a hospital gown, bare legs, bare feet, her face pale, her hair dark, hanging limp. "Rivas," I said. "Look." He leaned forward, squinting. "What? All I see is the tree line." I didn't argue, but I couldn't take my eyes off her. Then the front door opened, and a woman started waving frantically, pulling me back to the call. Inside, the patient sat in a recliner, gasping, lips dusky. Classic COPD exacerbation. I wrapped a cuff, clipped a sat probe, looped oxygen over his ears. Rivas prepped a neb while the wife tried not to cry. Fire rolled in with their big bags. One of them asked if we wanted the yard swept. I said after we move him, because duty came first. We transferred him, blanket tucked, monitor clipped. As we wheeled him out, I looked back to the tree line. Empty. The pale figure was gone. In the back, I rode with him, switching nebulizers, watching SATs creep up. At the hospital, the respiratory therapist took over. While his wife signed paperwork, I asked the charge nurse, "Any gown wanderers tonight? Teen, maybe 20, dark hair?" She shook her head. "Not from here. We'd have a report if someone left." But I knew what I'd seen. I spent half my life looking at those gowns. What won't leave me is the moment before we loaded him. I'd look back once more, just out of habit. For a second, less than a blink, I thought I saw her again. Closer. Same pale legs, same loose gown. But it was the angle that stuck. Her head was tilted toward me, not the house. And though she was far enough that I couldn't see her eyes, I felt watched. Not like a passerby, not like someone curious. Watched, as if she'd been waiting. Then Rivas said, "Let's move," and I turned back. By the time I looked again, there was nothing but branches shifting in the wind. Fire swore their sweep, found nothing. The hospital confirmed no patients had walked off. And yet, that stillness, the way she hadn't moved, hadn't called out, burned into me. People in distress wave or stumble or at least look toward help. She didn't. She stood like someone had set her at the edge of the dark and told her to stay put. Weeks later, the call still gnawed at me. Then one evening, we were staged near that same stretch when an older fire medic struck up conversation. I mentioned the girl, half joking, fishing for some rational explanation. His face didn't change. "You're not the first," he said. "A couple years back, a rookie swore he saw a patient in a gown standing near the bosque. Same thing. Looked too clean, too still. He called it in, but nobody was missing." Another medic chimed in, lowering his voice. "They say a girl from the state psych hospital ran off in the 90s. Never found her. Some of the old-timers call her the Watcher. Shows up near the tree line, disappears if you blink, always in a gown." They laughed it off after, but not in a funny way. More like guys whistling past a graveyard. I'm not saying I believe in ghosts. I'm not saying I don't. But I'll tell you this. I know what I saw, and I know what I felt. The weight of being observed. Funny how one call changes things. That stretch used to mean nothing. Now I check the tree line. Not because I expect to see her, but because part of me fears I will. That's the call that stuck with me. Not the COPD patient, not the neb I hung or the stats I charted. The girl in the gown who stood too still, who left no trace, who may or may not have been there at all. And I'll be honest, sometimes I wonder if one night, when I pass that stretch of road again, she'll be closer than before. I was 28 back in grad school, living in student housing in Ithaca. It wasn't glamorous. Just a beat-up 2-bedroom unit with creaky floors, paper-thin walls, and heat that only worked when it felt like it. Rent was cheap, though, and in a place like Ithaca, that's enough to keep you from complaining too much. My roommate Jeremy was another grad student. We weren't close friends, but we got along. He was a little older than me, 30 or so, quiet, clean, kept to himself. He told me once he used to have a sleepwalking problem when he was younger, but outgrew it. That's exactly how he said it, like it was a bad haircut that had grown out. At the time, I thought it was just another weird detail people throw around to make conversation. I didn't know that information would come back to haunt me. It was a Wednesday night, back in 2019. I'd stayed up late, grading papers, when I finally crawled into bed around 2 in the morning. I remember the room being oppressively quiet, the kind of silence that makes you too aware of your own breathing. At some point, I woke up. No noise, no sudden movement, just that eerie sense that something was off. I rolled over and nearly jumped out of my skin. Jeremy was standing at the foot of my bed. He wasn't moving, just standing there, staring down at me. His eyes were wide open, glassy but unfocused. His lips were slightly parted, like he was mid-thought but never finished. I sat up and whispered, "Jeremy? You good, man?" No reaction. I tried again, louder this time. "Jeremy." That's when he leaned slightly forward and, in this low, flat voice, whispered, "I'm waiting for him to move." Every hair on my body stood up. I didn't even know how to respond. I just sat there, staring at him, until he slowly turned his head, almost mechanically, and walked out of my room. His footsteps faded down the hall, soft against the old wooden floors. I sat there for at least 10 minutes, heart racing, before I finally got up, locked my door, and forced myself back into bed. The next morning, I asked him about it. He looked genuinely confused, said he hadn't sleepwalked in years, laughed it off. Man, if I did, I don't remember a thing. I wanted to believe him. Sleepwalking made sense, right? It was the logical explanation. But that sentence, "I'm waiting for him to move," played on a loop in my head. Who was him? Me? Someone else? A week later, it happened again. I woke around 3 a.m. The hall light was on. My door was cracked open, even though I always shut it tight. When I looked out, I saw Jeremy just standing in the hallway, facing my door. Not moving. Not blinking. This time I didn't say anything. I just slid out of bed, pushed the door shut, and locked it. The next morning, he acted normal. Cooking oatmeal, humming to himself. I asked if he turned the hall light on last night. He shook his head. "Nope, must have been you." But I knew it wasn't. The third time was the worst. It was almost the end of January. I'd been trying to ignore the unease, telling myself it was just stress or lack of sleep. But that night proved it wasn't just in my head. I woke again to the same silence. And there he was, closer than ever. Not at the foot of the bed this time. He was standing right next to me. I could see every detail of his face in the faint glow from the streetlight outside. His eyes were open, staring straight down at me. His breathing was slow. Before I could say anything, he whispered again. Same monotone voice. "He's almost ready." That was it for me. I shot upright, shoved him back, and yelled his name. He blinked rapidly, looking confused, like he had just snapped out of something. Then he muttered, "What the hell?" and stumbled out of the room. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next day, I confronted him. He swore up and down he didn't remember a thing. Said maybe I was dreaming, maybe I was stressed. He got defensive, like I was accusing him of something. But here's the part that still makes my stomach turn. A few days later, while cleaning up the living room, I found Jeremy's old notebook wedged under the TV shelf. I couldn't help myself, so I flipped through it. Most of it was class notes, but toward the back there were pages filled with fragmented sentences, written over and over, like someone scribbling in a trance. He will move. He is almost ready. Don't wake him yet. I slammed the notebook shut and shoved it back where I found it. I didn't want him to know I'd seen it. I moved out 2 weeks later, under the excuse of needing more space. To this day, I don't know if Jeremy was really sleepwalking or if something else was going on. I don't know if he even realized what he was saying, or if those words were meant for me at all. But sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and swear I can still hear that whisper. I'm waiting for him to move. And I have a feeling that one day I'll find out exactly who him is. If you're suddenly very aware of the darkness behind you, yeah, same here. Smash that like button, hit subscribe so you never miss the next scare, and tell me in the comments what freaked you out the most tonight. And if you thought home felt unsafe, wait until you hear what happens when the only walls around you are made of canvas. Click now to watch 4 horrifying camping horror stories, where the scariest thing isn't what you hear, but what's been listening to you all night. Thanks for watching. Stay alert, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next nightmare.